Leadership is about creating the conditions that help to bring out the best in other people, help other people discover the best in themselves. Now, I congratulate you all because you all have just been promoted. Each one of you has just been promoted to be chief mate of this ship. Chief mate is second in command as the chief operations officer, you could say. So this is your ship. And here you are, actually, silhouetted on the foredeck there in your broad-brimmed hat. That's actually me in the photograph, but for now this is you, and you are directing that crew member who's climbing up the rigging to try to get a sail down. Because that's what you do. As chief mate, chief operations officer, you direct the crew. The captain gives an order, and it's up to you to make it so. So for example, one of the basic maneuvers of handling the ship is called tacking. Well, tacking is turning the ship in a particular way toward the wind, and it requires the crew to handle all of the sails in the right sequence and with the right timing and in a hurry as the ship turns. And on a ship this size, you can imagine this is a complicated maneuver. So this is how it works. Let's say that you're sailing under a traditional captain, someone who likes to do things in the old school way, and we'll call him Captain R. So Captain R is back at the wheel, and when it's time to tack, he shouts out in a voice that carries to the masthead, "Ready, about!" which is the command to tack. So then you leap into action. You jump up on the hatch and you start to direct the crew. And you say, "You there to the leeward headsail sheets, and you two to the windward. You to the staysail, and you there, stand by the topsail braces." So don't worry about the salty lingo. You're the mate now, so you understand all this. But you're telling everybody exactly what to do. And when you see that everybody is in position, you shout back to the captain at the wheel, "All ready on the foredeck!" And he replies, "Helms a lee," which is the command to tack. So the ship starts to turn. And now you are focused on the sails. And at just the right moment, as the wind starts to catch the sails, you call out to the crew, "Pass the jib and pass the flying jib." And the crew start madly hauling away on the sails. And a moment later, at just the right time, you shout out, "Pass the staysail," and the crew leap to the staysail. And then a moment later, it's, "Let go and haul the topsail braces." And the topsail swings around. The ship is off on her new course. The tack is beautifully executed. And you believe that all of this depends on your voice. And you've taught the crew to believe this too. They're all looking to you. So I'm going to ask you all to move the chairs so we can open up the room. Now don't start yet. There's a couple of guidelines for this. And don't worry, this may seem like an onerous task, but it's actually not. I've done this with lots of groups of different sizes, and you are up to the task. But there are a few guidelines for doing this. So the first guideline is to create as much open space in the room as is safely possible. So, mind the fire exits, and don't build teetering pyramids of chairs that might fall over and clobber somebody. But the next basic guideline is that for this activity, no one is in charge. And the third guideline is no one speaks. So this is very interesting. When we don't speak to each other, we pay attention to each other in a very different way. It has an interesting effect on your attitude. So I invite you to notice what happens to your attitude as you're doing this. I also want to be clear that this is not about being quiet. This is not about me saying, "Class, be quiet." No. You can make as much noise as you like. Have a good time. Laugh, grunt, fart like a sailor. Just don't use words. So whispering to each other? It's missing the point. Like mouthing words at each other, there's no need for that. Try to actually do this without speech. And notice, in fact, that that's hard to do. We are so wired to talk all the time. Maybe you find that you just said something. Oh, why did you say that? So, I think the instructions are fairly clear. Please make it so. Nicely done. We can all speak. So, any comments about that? What was that like? Easy.
Silent coordination.
Silent coordination. Cooperative. Fast. Insecure. Did you say? So would you say more about that?
Well, I was not in control,
Uh-huh.
and I did not know what to do.
So she felt as if she was not in control and she didn't know what to do. How many other people felt that way? Oh, come on, there must be somebody else. A few people. So how about everybody else? What? Orderly? Yeah? It was calm. Ah. Surprising, yes. It's very surprising. Well, wait till we put the chairs back together again. You'll be really surprised. But now let's say that Captain R has gone ashore for some well-deserved leave, and you're sailing under a new captain, Captain Andy Ray Ellers, who's the real-life captain that I sailed under on the California. And Captain Andy has a different style. So Captain Andy always wears a ball cap when he's sailing. And he's back at the wheel, charming the guests. Everyone wants to talk to the captain. But at some point, he turns his ball cap sideways, like this. Now, you and the rest of the crew are also mingling with the guests, telling your sea tales. But you all have half an eye on Captain Andy, and somebody notices the ball cap. So they excuse themselves from the conversation, and they move to position at a sail. Someone else notices them moving, and pretty soon that awareness has rippled through the whole crew, and everyone is in place. So then you signal back to Captain Andy at the wheel, and he turns his ball cap backwards. Now the ship starts to turn, and the crew are focused on the sails. And at just the right moment, as the wind starts to catch the sails, they pass the flying jib and they pass the jib. They wait a moment, and at the right time, they pass the staysail. They let go and hold the topsail braces. The topsail swings around. The ship is off on a new tack. The tack is beautifully executed once again. And you have said nothing. No one has spoken a word. The crew know their job. Now, maybe one time they're too fast on the staysail and you need to tell them, hold that sail. But you don't say anything. This is the command for hold, because the crew also have half an eye on you. So when you're done with the tack, you go back to your conversations with the guests, and they all say, well, that was very smooth. We didn't even hear any commands. How did you know what to do? And you smile and say, many hands, one mind. When we're in sync, the ship tacks herself. Now that's the kind of crew that I want to be with in that storm at sea in the middle of the night. Another way to put this is that leader dependence is not good for performance. I actually don't want too much leadership. So for anybody in a leadership position, that's a relief. All this stuff of having to do more and more and more and more all the time with less and less, well, when it comes to leadership, you can actually do less. And if you do it well, you can actually get more. So when we work with leadership, we have to look at what we really give. Leadership is a practice of generosity. The kind of leadership that I'm talking about is a practice of generosity. Now you might say, really? Isn't leadership about getting people to do what I want? No. Leadership is about getting people to do what they want. And what people want is to be the best version of themselves that they can be.